what's up, y'all? HW. Went to go grab my coffee. There was nothing here. Dudes, I got a helpful tip for you today. And it's one of the things I think that can really take your modeler, your Tonex, your Kemper, your Quad Cortex, your Helix, no matter what you're using, your little GP200, GP5, Pocket Master, whatever. One of the things that I think can really take your modeler digital unit from good to great, or from sounding pretty good to sounding like the real thing, is to add some post-amp compression. And I'm going to show you that. And before I show you what to do exactly, let's talk about why this is something you should do. First off, I was watching a Dan Huff video, and it's one of Dan's first videos on his YouTube channel that he just kind of started doing, the experience with Dan Huff. It's a great channel. I really suggest you watch it. Dan's talking about a lot of really great stuff. But in that video, he talks about, he's like, I'm plugged in directly to the amp, straight into the amp. But you're hearing all these effects. There's delay, verb, there's some chorus and stuff. There's all these post-amp effects, right? And they're happening, I would imagine, in Pro Tools or on some outboard gear. But one of the things that was very clear to me was that it was compressed. There was clearly a post-amp compressor on the channel. This is something that is often done in studios. Guitar players seem to have this thinking that a compressor in my chain must go first. If I have compression, it goes first in my chain. That does not have to be. And sometimes you even see guitar players go, oh, I like compression after my gain stages or after my pedals. Well, that same logic should apply actually to the gain you get out of your amp. And I want to show you how it does. But the other reason that this is something you should really consider, and why I think it has a pretty profound effect, is if you consider what an amp does in real life. When you turn an amp real loud, it compresses. It naturally compresses. The speaker compresses, and each of the gain stages producing gain result in compression. Now, something else happens. Your ears actually compress as well. A lot of people may not know this, but your ear has three little areas. You've got your outer, your middle, and your inner ear drum here, right? And you actually, when your outer ear senses too much vibration, your brain involuntarily constricts a little muscle in your ear called the stapedius. Okay? HW, what are you talking about? Listen, this is the only channel you're going to get guitar tone and biology, so just hear me out. That little muscle, the stapedius, it actually, when it produces, when the brain hears that there's a lot of decibels coming in, that stapedius' job is the smallest muscle in your body, and it connects to the smallest bone in your body. Its job on both ears is to tighten up, to get real rigid. Imagine that you are outside with an umbrella and that wind really starts kicking up and it starts pulling like this, right? The umbrella. What are you going to do to control it and keep your balance? You're going to tighten up and you're going to bring that thing in, and then you're going to keep walking, right? Now, it's not foolproof. You can still damage your hearing, right? So don't think of it as a compressor with the mix all the way at 100. It doesn't have the power to control all the sound, but you actually have a little like auxiliary compression in your ears. And the point is, it's really a limiter. That constricting factor, when it tightens up like that, it actually stops vibration from traveling through the eardrum into the inner ear, where it's more fragile and where you can be injured by loud sounds. You have no control over that. It's not like your breath, where you don't even think about breathing, but if you want, you can control it. It's more like your heartbeat or your digestive tract. Your brain sends the signals to do it without you even knowing. It's not in your conscious brain, so you can't turn it off. But it kicks on when you turn that amp up loud. Because you might be going, HW, if I capture the amp loud, how come my Tonex or my Kemper or my Quad Cortex, how come it doesn't sound exactly like it? Well, this is one of the several or many reasons why we have a different sensation when we listen to things loud. This little thing I'm talking about, this stapedius, and the natural limiting factor of the biology of the ear and what your brain does to tighten up and get rid of vibration on the inner ear, that's actually also why engineers never produce at super loud volumes. You might, in a studio, engineers will know this, you might turn up your mix just so you can sort of listen to the bellowiness and control the low end, and you might make some changes, but you're going to go back down. Why? Because there's a level at which the stapedius does not contract, and you're going to get the most sort of natural sound. And how much is it the same in every person? I don't know. The other thing is it's probably quite slight, but it's actually not that slight because your brain also might start to get a little, it might enjoy loud sounds or not enjoy loud sounds depending on sort of what you've trained or what drugs you may have done. Let's be honest. Okay, no, but that's the stapedius, right? And that is in your ear, and that really affects the sensation of the sound. So if we're gonna have our modelers at a more reasonable volume, if one of the reasons we have a modeler is to play inside and not go crazy with our neighbors and go deaf, then we may want to mimic a bit of that compression post-amp. And I'll be honest with you, it just sounds better. And when you want to fit your guitar into a mix, compression is really helpful over the whole signal because it really helps the engineer and helps the listener sort of have that sound, your guitar, fit into a place. And even though the player might go, I want the most dynamics possible, well, the mix is what the listener hears as dynamic. And your guitar probably doesn't need to be as dynamic to the listener as it does to you, the player, right? So let me show you this. And again, this will work on any modeler. I'm going to show you, I'm playing a Kemper right now, but if you're on the Tonex, use the compressor block in the Tonex. If you're on a quad Cortex, I recommend putting the block, the legendary 87, after your amp or anywhere later in your chain than the amplifier and cabinet. If you're on a Helix, the Studio Comp, it's an LA2A, and I use that a lot. In fact, if you buy any of the Tone Junkie Helix stuff, for many years and on many patches, I have always plopped a little LA2A compressor after the amp just because I think it sounds totally ace. Let me show you my guitar sound as you were hearing it up front there, but let me just show you without, look, this is what I would want to play in a mix. Now, if you know what that compression's doing, I got a tiny bit of compression up front that I always play with. Just leave that alone. Enjoy your compression up front. That's for you, the player. But for the listener, I'm going to turn that sound off now. I'm going to turn off that compressor in the back, and now I want you to hear that same thing. Okay, what you can hear it's doing there, and this is the type of thing headphones are really going to help you out rather than your iPhone, which you may be listening on. The compression there is not huge. In fact, I'm using it right here, and I've just got a little compressor here, and we can see, again, if you're not on a Kemper, don't worry about it. I'm going to turn on that compressor. I've got my threshold at 4. I would recommend on every compressor, start with the threshold at 5. The threshold, all it's going to do is tell your compressor at what level sound do you want me to start compressing. So if I put my threshold all the way up, listen to this. With a high threshold, we're telling the compressor every bit of sound. When you turn that threshold up, it basically means any bit of sound that comes out, I want you to grab it and I want you to compress it. And what it does there is it makes the string noise on my guitar just as loud as hitting the strings. That's not useful to us. If I go all the way down to nothing, it's not grabbing anything down here. but it's also not doing a lot. I actually want I actually want those lighter touch things on the guitar to actually be compressed and come out. So I'm going to recommend on any compressor you're on, start at 5 and then feel it out. I happen to know that on this particular compressor, I like 4. And I notice on a lot of compressors, I go to 5 and I back it off, and that's somewhere where I like it. Whether that's 3.5 on your unit or 4 or 4.5 or 3, just feel it out. But we're not grabbing that, but it's grabbing those softer notes, right? So what it's serving to do there is now I've lost some dynamics on my guitar in terms of I can't dig in as much. I can dig in, but when I dig in, I'm not necessarily going to get more volume. I'm rather going to get more dirt because the front of my amp is still seeing more and a hotter signal, but the back of my amp has some limiting going on, some compression going on. So the listener is now going to hear my guitar waveform, what the waveform will look like will be a little more solid moving across rather than, rigid, where you can hear a chord go boom and then it starts to fade away. Instead, it's going to go boom and the compressor's going to grab it and keep it up and then slowly go down. And then when I pick a single note, here's what I want you to notice here, and here's what it's really great for. Here's me digging in. Even my little pull-offs there, where I wasn't picking a note, have almost such a similar attack as when I am picking the note, because that compressor is grabbing it, it's holding it out, it's bringing the low volume stuff up. What this does is really give you a much more polished studio sound. And what I think it does is this. It gives you more of the sensation that you have with a very loud amp in the room. When an amp is very loud in the room, it is compressing more. And you're getting more and more compression, which gives you a type of feeling where my soft notes, they're somehow loud but clean. And then my dirty stuff, you hear how me picking through there, I can make it more polite or a little more disgruntled, like it owes you money just a little bit. But it comes through at roughly the same volume. I can even see when I'm looking over here, it's a flatter waveform than it would be without this secondary compressor on. If I take that off, see, you lose it a little bit. You lose it's not quite the same volume. That is, I think, a little more of the sensation when an amp is loud in the room, because going back to what a compressor would be used for in a studio and give you a more polished feel, an engineer is going to put some compression on right here. And when we have the tools in our hands, like we do with these modelers, we should use them. Let's give ourselves the proper amount of compression, and then let the studio guy, let the front of house engineer, if he's drinking a beer, he might not be putting compression on your signal at all. If he's very attentive, he might listen to it and go, wow, that actually sounds really good. I don't need as much compression. I'm going to back it off. Or you can tell them, You know, hey, I'm running a little post compressor. Tell me if you want more or less, but I think it evens out my sound and should make me easier to fit into the mix. I bet the guy's going to go, fantastic. You put a sound guy onto that, you put an engineer onto that. He's, first of all, you just plopped it in his brain. Now you got him going, oh yeah, I can hear all those little things. Yeah, let me just EQ this channel slightly. I'm good. I'm happy with that. Let me move it up. You've now just put in his brain, I like the guitar sound. You're going to be louder in that mix. You're going to be more prominent in that mix, all right? I've been around the block, guys. I know. You come in with a little coffee, a little baked goods, you know what I'm saying? Hey, man, you lose a little weight? Somehow your guitar's louder in the mix, you know what I'm saying? That's how you finesse them, you know? But the other thing it does is using a compressor, we're mimicking the turning on and off, the tightening, the constricting, and the relaxing of that stapedius muscle, which at those louder volumes is gonna don't let as much vibration in, which actually brings down the decibel level, and then it's gonna loosen as much as it can to let those softer sounds come in so that our clean it's letting all that vibration come through with as little restriction as possible so that we can get the vibration to the inner ear and the brain perceives the tone as louder. That is biological compression. What an amazing, amazing thing. This gimbal with 2 cameras and 2, stereo microphones really is. You know what I'm saying? And that functionality and how we're designed, it's so that we can, in low volume environments, we can hear a little twig breaking far away. That could be the jaguar popping out to eat us. That could be a predator sneaking up on us. That could be a little change in the wind or something that we need to hear, right? But it also means that when you're exposed to a lot of decibels, you're literally running by the ocean, swimming in the ocean. When the cicadas are super loud outside, your ears are protected from fatigue over time. And when there's banging and booming and fire crackling and, trees being knocked down and, harsh wind, all these loud things, loud music and all the things we've created, when that happens, it allows you to preserve your hearing and have these very sensitive instruments that then do not become damaged when they are exposed to loud decibels. Let me ask you a question. What other YouTube channel is talking about 65 Deluxe Reverb, free download for all the platforms? What other YouTube channel is talking about guitar tone, modelers, and you get to learn about the stapedius muscles in your head, the smallest muscles in your body? What other channel? The answer is no other channel. I've been HW.